Good afternoon. Welcome to Kent City Council Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, February 17, 2026. Melissa, may we have roll call, please?
Council President Kaur,
Here.
Councilmember Boyce,
Here.
Councilmember Boyd,
Here.
Councilmember Larmer, Councilmember Michaud,
Here.
Councilmember Shoker,
Here.
and Councilmember Troutner.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Next up, agenda approvals. Any changes to the agenda? If none, may I have a motion, please?
So move, Madam President. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Approval of minutes for February 3, 2026.
So move, Madam President. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Payment of bills.
So move, Madam President. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up, we have Canon Lease Extension Agreement. We have our IT Director here, James Endicott. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. James Endicott, IT Director. Today, I'm here to seek approval to enter into a lease agreement with Canon USA for our multifunction devices. The contract would run through March 2027 with an estimated cost of $151,461, which also includes the hardware and the click charges. If you notice, this is a 13-month lease. We tried to align this with our move into ASB. So starting this fall, we're going to start a project where we kind of go through all of our MFDs, all the usage, all of our locations, and try to consolidate and reduce our overall fleet. So that is why it's kind of an abnormal contract. With that, any questions?
Any questions or comments?
Nope.
All right. None. I'll make a motion. I move to authorize the mayor to sign a lease extension with Canon USA, Inc. to extend the term of the city's lease of Canon multifunctional devices through March 1, 2027, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the IT Director and City Attorney.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
All right. Economic and Community Development, since Councilmember Larmer was not able to join us, we'll have Councilmember Boyd run that.
Okay, yes, we're going to look at appointments to the lodging tax, and we have Michelle Wilmot, who's going to be up.
I do not see her.
Kurt.
Or the other Michelle. Okay. Hey, Kurt.
Good afternoon, Councilmember. I don't see Michelle here either, and I don't have the appointment information, so
Councilmember Boyd.
I'm filibustering a moment.
Okay.
Thanks. Now can I borrow your glasses?
Want my shirt too?
Nope, I'm good.
All right.
All I needed. All right, Council, before you this afternoon, we have an appointment for, this is a reoccurring appointment for our Lodging Tax Advisory Board. I'm just going to skip to the name here, which I will see any second.
Cynthia Boyd and David Qua.
Cynthia Boyd and David Clark
Thank you, Steve.
are being appointed. Miss Michelle, how about coming on up to the stage and talk about the lodging tax?
Can I have my glasses, sir? Man.
I thought you'd still be talking about minutes and stuff now. Sorry, everybody. Oh, my gosh. 1,000 apologies, everyone. Michelle Wilmot, Economic Development staff, and staff to the Kent Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. And since we have a new council member, I would love to give some background about what the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee does. All of the lodging businesses in Kent, whether they're hotels, motels, I don't think we have any campgrounds anymore, B&Bs. They all collect lodging tax on behalf of the city. And we, as far as the collection of that tax, it's a 1% on overnight stays here in Kent. And that money is designated to be used by cities for tourism and marketing purposes. So we have been collecting the lodging tax since I think we decided to do this well before my time. Bill, or Councilmember Boyce, I can't, if you were here when that decision was made on the council, but it's been a long practice for us. So we have a lodging tax advisory committee that advises on how those funds are spent. What the committee does, though, it is dictated by the state how that committee is made up, and we've had some challenges with this right now. So we have 4 representatives that are supposed to make up half of the lodging tax committee, and those are lodging businesses that generate the sales tax. And then there are 4 representatives from organizations that are able to utilize lodging tax funds. With the 8 committee members, those are all appointed by the city council. We currently only have 4 of the 8 seats filled right now because we have a lack of interested and available hoteliers to sit on the lodging tax committee. And state law says that the membership of that committee must be equal. So with having so few hoteliers, we have David Kwok with the Hampton Inn and then Jim Moran at the Best Western. With only having 2 lodging tax representatives on the hotel side, we haven't opened up membership for people outside of the hotel base because then the committee structure is out of balance, which is not permitted by state law. We have lots of interested people wanting to serve on the committee, except for those that actually contribute the tax on the hotel side. So with that, I just wanted to ask for this group's support for the appointment of Cynthia Boyd. Cynthia became the general manager at Accesso Showware, succeeding Tim Higgins, whose 3rd term finished up the middle of last month. And as you all know, Showware is a significant generator of visitors and overnight stays here in Kent. We believe that Cynthia's participation will bring a great perspective. I've worked with her for a number of years. She's a marketing professional with great experience working at Kent Station prior to her role here at Showware Center. So we are requesting Cynthia's approval to serve on the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee for her first 3-year term. The next person we'd like to have your approval to reappoint is David Kwok, who's the owner and general manager of the Hampton Inn and Suites. He's served on the Lodging Tax Committee since July of 2010. So he's a long-stayed member of the Lodging Tax Committee and has been a longtime supporter and frequent participant in many of our conversations. He's expressed his willingness to continue serving. His experience and certainly institutional knowledge are a great asset to the group. We have, I know we have term limits for people on the Lodging Tax Committee, but given the lack of hoteliers that we have interested, we are asking for an exception to be made in this particular case. So on behalf of Economic and Community Development Department, we are respectfully requesting your support and reappointment of Mr. Kwok and Ms. Cynthia Boyd to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any comments or questions for Michelle? Councilman Shoker?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that background. That was really helpful. So with this isn't about the appointments at all, but just more about the general committee. So what is some of the projects that marketing for the tourism, what are some projects right now?
So I'll tell you, we spend a good portion of money for marketing of Kent via our Visit Kent website, so visitkent.com, and then there is a Visit Kent Facebook page and a Visit Kent Instagram page. So please follow all of those if you're not already. That group, we work with a company. It's a full service marketing and PR agency named J-Ray. They do all of the monitoring of what's happening at Showare Center, the Chamber, the KDP, the city, the schools to try to make sure that our content is up to date and current on the website and social media. They also have done a lot of campaigns where we can attract audiences from Eastern Washington. And this is particularly around our hockey games and concerts. So they do a lot of coordination with Kent Station and Showare Center on specific marketing campaigns. They've been using technology, which has, some call it the black helicopter technology, but it's cell phone tracking technology. So if somebody has seen a digital ad on your cell phone, and then we can track whether that person saw the ad, and if they then were at an event at Showare or at Kent Station, and if they were also at a hotel. Just to be clear, this is no personal information. It's simply a phone was seen that saw this ad and has then been seen or located at a facility or an attraction here in the city. So those are part of the biggest expenditure of funds when it comes to marketing. We've also supplied Showare Center with additional funds to support activities and help bring in additional concerts and events, as well as the Seattle Thunderbirds with some of the marketing. We also help bring business events to Kent for conferences, smaller conferences, needless to say. Our hoteliers have told us over the years that 2/3 of their overnight stays are generated by business travel. That's great during the week. Then the weekends, it changes, of course. And then certainly the visitors here in Kent tend to be driven by sporting events, activities, whether it's tournaments, not necessarily with just the school district, but private organizations. And then certainly local events like the International Festival we have supported with lodging tax funds and the like.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Okay, Councilmember Boyce.
thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Yeah, I'm the chair for the council for this committee here. Most of our strategy is like heads in bed, so we try to bring stuff into the city that would cause people to stay into the motel. Sometimes we put a big basketball tournament across the state. They had a big wrestling tournament back in early January. So really, we try to focus on things that will put people to stay, reasons to stay in the city, which also generate funds too. I also just want to add that Michelle did a phenomenal job, her and Rhonda, and I would say she's never late. She's always on time, but she do a good job of really just keeping us all together. We do have a application process that we'll probably go. We're going to meet this Thursday, talk about the process, because really based on how much fun we have each year. So on Thursday, we'll look at the funding that we want to spend. We'll open the application process where we communicate where people can put their requests in on type of events they want to have, and then we'll leave that open about 4 weeks. Then we get back together. Then the team kind of go through and score just based on what's going to benefit the city and tourism and so on. And then we award half of the fund, at that time, and then before they get the other half, they have to come back and show us this is what they did and the benefits and so on and so on. So pretty well programmed. I think Michelle do a phenomenal job of running it. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. Sound like you got it. What? Sorry, Councilmember Michelle. Sorry, Michelle.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. And those grants usually come to council. They come to council. We see them, yeah. So we get to see them, see what they're being used for. But I did have a question for what we're talking about, the appointment. Can anyone who works for the hotel, like in management, be on the board, or does it have to be like an owner or?
It doesn't have to be an owner, but it does definitely need to be somebody on a management level.
Leadership position. Yeah, that'd be a leadership.
David Kwok with the Hampton just happens to be the owner and general manager there, where Jim Moran at Best Western is the general manager. He's not part of the ownership group, so
Okay.
it can be either or.
And
We welcome anyone.
We just can't find anyone from the other hotels?
We tried.
They are hard nut to crack when it comes to, and we try to really minimize the amount of meetings we have. We don't meet just to meet. We are very purposeful in our discussions and marketing decisions, and then certainly the grant process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have now Council President.
One other comment. No, you go.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. Good to see you. And my question is about outreach maybe to the different hotels, reaching out to them to get more engaged. Maybe they're part of the chamber, or just, I don't know, sending a flyer to them or getting them to be more aware of what, I don't know if you, I'm sure you've already done that, but just putting it out there again.
I continue to do so because the turnover in the management of these hotels is pretty frequent too, which is unfortunate. But yes, point well taken, and I do try to keep tabs on what is happening. If new ownership is happening at different hotels here, I absolutely reach out and make
Thank you.
requests. So if you know of someone who could help me,
Well,
that'd be great.
Came to my mind the new Spark. Is it Spark? Mm-hmm. They had their ribbon cutting not that long ago with the chamber, and they've been there for a while. So.
Yes, we have
Just
had
one that came to my mind.
communication.
Okay, any other questions for Michelle? We're going to get to this motion sooner or later. Sound like you got it covered when it comes to marketing. I mean, everything that you talked about and the council has spoken about kind of encompasses everything. And I'm glad that you're doing such a good job. And so with that, I'm going to make a motion. And I move to appoint Cynthia Boyd to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee for a 3-year term starting on March the 3rd, 2026, and ending on March the 2nd, 2029, and to reappoint David Kwok to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee for a 3-year term starting on March the 3rd, 2026, and ending on March the 2nd, 2029.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now we're moving on to, thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and apologies again for my tardiness. And just to also just reiterate, the reporting that is required for these grants is required by the state. So that's part of the reason why we don't award the full grant right away. There hasn't been any incentive to report results to the Lodging Tax Committee, so we hold back half of the grant award and provide it at the end with the receipt of that, because we are required to report to the state. So happy to answer any question anytime.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. So next up, we have info only, Recode Kent Phase 2 Community Commercial Zone updates from Deja. Michelle? Deja?
Good afternoon, Deja Mitchell, Long Range Planner here, and I'm here to give an update for our community commercial zone updates and a part of Recode Kent Phase 2. So jumping into our agenda tonight, so we'll go through some legacy code and some examples on why we're changing the code. We'll go into our proposed code changes and then a timeline for adoption. So a quick agenda here. So I know last time I was here, we talked a little bit about how we want to end out or close out Recode Kent Phase 2 and some proposed changes to our community commercial and our community commercial mixed use zone. So I'm here again to further that discussion. So this site that you see on your screen, circled in red, is where a lot of our community commercial and community commercial mixed use is housed, but it's also where the southern portion of our Benton corridor is, so on 104th there. So our comp plan has a vision for this area to be robust and mixed use. It's also already designated as an activity center and a county designated growth center. However, there are some legacy codes that have limited redevelopment and residential growth in this area. Those codes or barriers for those codes includes things such as site coverage, so limited building footprint, so we end up with a lot of parking and surface parking with smaller building footprints. There's height restrictions. There's also some commercial requirements that create a carrying cost for commercial space if it isn't leased. So we're looking to increase homeownership in this area by addressing those barriers in our Kent City Code. In particular, we're looking to address these barriers within our CC zone. So I know last time we talked about our CC zone and our CCMU zone, which is just an overlay of our CC zone. But currently, we're just looking to do some updating for our CC zone. And these changes are all aligned with our comp plan and our environmental impact statement. So this will just be an interim step before we do a holistic change with our Benson Corridor plan later on. So just really pushing forward our comp plan, which we have already adopted. So jumping into some examples that we have here. So this site, it's not in our community commercial zone, it's in our GC zone, so our general commercial zone. However, it does show some consistent issues that we've had across the board for our mixed-use development. So this is our Pros Kent site. It's a residential development. It sits off of Canyon Drive behind a car dealership. It's already been built. However, code says, if you want to have residential in this area, in the GC zone, that you must have at least 5% of your gross floor area dedicated to commercial use. So it has been built, and the commercial use sits, let's see if I can get this to work. Commercial sits on this area, and the commercial sits vacant. So there isn't any commercial there or any active commercial there, and there aren't many people coming off of Canyon Drive. It's kind of in a weird place. However, code does require commercial in this area. So that's an issue that we've been having with our mixed use, just having vacant commercial unused. And of course, because of that, there's less residential units, and then there's also those residential components sometimes absorb the cost of those vacant commercial units.
Just real quick. This site is on Central, not Canyon.
Oh, sorry.
So it has a similar issue with ground floor commercial requirements, but it is off of Central. Okay.
So another issue we have, and I'm sure you all know this site, this is our old Top Food sites. This one is in our CC zone, and it has been sitting vacant for a while. And code says if you want residential in this area, then you must have at least 25% of the development be dedicated to commercial use. You also must have your commercial use permitted and occupied or permitted prior to your residential being permitted, despite there being a copious amount of commercial in this area here. So it just kind of sits vacant, although it's perfect for infill housing. So that brings me to our proposed code changes and how we plan to rectify situations such as this. So we have about 5 major code changes, and again, only in our CC zone. So we're increasing the permitted land uses and updating corresponding footnotes. We're also increasing site coverage and height restrictions and updating design review requirements. And I'll get into further exactly what we're doing in the next couple slides here. So just a little background on our community commercial zone and residential in this area. So code prior to said if you wanted to have residential in this area, you can only have residential in our mixed use zone. So you can only have it in the community commercial mixed use zone. You can't have it in the community commercial zone alone. So we've opened that up and said we want housing in this area, so we're allowing for 4-plexes, 5-plexes, 6-plexes, townhomes, multifamily, and all residential facilities in this area, or in the CC zone. However, they'll only be allowed within a quarter mile of 104th Ave, so where that Benson corridor is. We've also allowed for residential facilities, so they no longer require a minor conditional use permit, which is just an additional step. So instead of allowing something permitted outright, they would have to do a minor conditional use permit before we allow them to build in that area or whatever the case may be. So that is no longer a requirement, and I'll further dive into that in the next slide here. We've also allowed for live-work units to be allowed in the CC zone. So they already have their own stipulations, but we've added some additional stipulations that state working spaces shall be reserved for and regular use by one or more of the residents or in that live-work unit, so who's ever living in that unit. And then no portion of that live-work unit should be sold off as space or additional units. So really keeping that for the unit, or for the residents that stay there, or whoever may get that particular live-work unit. And I mentioned earlier that we now allow for residential facilities in our CC zone, or we're proposing to allow for residential facilities in our CC zone. So prior to, they were only allowed permitted outright if they had some type of commercial or office component. So we scratched that, said that's no longer a requirement. It's permitted outright if it's within that quarter mile of 104th. We also no longer, again, require that minor conditional use permit. So they're permitted outright. They'll have their own stipulations as far as having particular amenities, but no longer require that minor conditional use permit. They will be permitted. And because our CC zone and our GC zone are the only zones that have this requirement for residential facilities, we decided to remove that requirement for not only our CC zone, but also our GC zone as well. Lastly, we have updated or increased our site coverage from 40% to 80%, so allowing for bigger building footprints. We have also updated or increased our height limitation. So it was once 3 stories. Now we've done a general update. So everyone in the CC zone or every development in the CC zone is allowed 5 stories. However, if you're a residential development and you have structured parking or you have some type of commercial use, you're allowed an additional 2 stories. Lastly, we have changed our design standard requirements. So prior to residential development in the CC zone or that CCMU zone, we're required to do mixed use design review. Now we are requiring them to do multifamily design review, and that is because the multifamily design standards are a little bit more comprehensive and have more requirements around residential and pedestrian spaces.
Did you have a question?
Sure.
So does that make it 7 stories then? Or is it 5 total?
It would be 5 and 7 if that residential development does commercial or structured parking. If they don't do structured parking or commercial, then they would be limited to 5.
Just 5, okay.
Yeah.
And really quickly, I'm going to jump in real quick. Our existing code says 3 stories, but then it has a footnote that says the director, through just an administrative process, can add 1 extra story. And then land use and planning board can also add an extra story. So we technically already allow 5 stories. It's just a process that's a little bit vague and actually not described how that approval process would be. Land use and planning board does not approve permits. So it's actually what has historically been allowed would be up to 5 stories. So really this is removing the vagueness in that.
So is that 5 total or is it 7?
It would be 5 total plus 2, so 7 max. So what we are proposing is to incentivize the structured parking and to incentivize mixed use to allow an additional 2 stories. So that really is the height difference change, would be 5 to 7. And then I did want to make one other note. There's state legislation that's likely to pass. We've been commenting very actively on it, but it's likely to pass and it will not allow us to require ground floor commercial. So this is something that we already had called in the comp plan for housing to be integrated along Benson. So this is really just implementing our existing policies, but there are some broader implications. So that's why we're narrowing the scope just for this area, because there's CC zones elsewhere and there's other zones that we'll need to take a look at the legislation more broadly, but we wanted to do this first interim step just to really continue on what the comp plan already analyzed.
So if the state legislation passes, then we have to follow that, and everything that we do is...
It won't be erased, so this would be in compliance with the new state legislation.
Okay.
But this proposal right here, but we have other zones where we do require ground floor commercial, and those would need to be amended.
Got it. Thank you.
So those are our main code changes. As far as timelines, we are hoping for a quick turnaround here with adoption by mid-March, March 17th to be exact. So that is all I have for you all tonight.
Thank you, Deja. That was a lot right there. Thanks a lot. Does anybody have any questions for Deja?
Looks like Councilmember Shoker.
Councilman Shoker?
Yeah. Do we know how many additional units of housing this will create with the code change in the next 5 to 10 years?
We don't know exactly, but we are hoping and pushing for some homeownership and some housing in this area because it's been kind of stagnated.
And then that site that you had mentioned, that Top Foods, isn't it like a Burlington now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can speak a little to that. So that site sat vacant for years. I don't know if Bill Ellis is in here. I was going to get the exact number. When we were trying to attract investors, a lot of questions were about residential uses. And technically, residential is not allowed on that site right now because it doesn't have that mixed use overlay. So this would expand that opportunity on that site. It's an example of where we say, really there is mixed use happening in the area. It may not be all in one building, but they're based on conversations and other development performance analysis, there's enough other activity on the site to create that mixed use. It is occupied right now. It has, I think, a Harbor Freight went in. There's Burlington. Future plans, though, could be that in the future it could be redeveloped, and so this would enable that opportunity if interest is there.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Michelle?
Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Can you show the map slide again?
Sure.
And I just want to make sure I get this straight. We're just allowing residential now in these areas without the restrictions.
So it's technically already allowed in our CCMU zone. It wasn't allowed in our CC zone. It would have to have been in that overlay. So yeah, we're only allowing it, well, it looks kind of weird now, but in the CC zone, so technically it's a lighter color here, but they're both pink. So we're only allowing it in the CC zone. It's already technically allowed in the CCMU zone, but the CCMU zone has its own restrictions as far as residential and the commercial component and things of that nature. And only within a quarter mile of 104th.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Kristen and Deja? Okay. Well, thank you for the presentation. Truly appreciate it. Council President, and that's it for ECD.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, everyone. And now we have Public Works, Councilmember Troutner.
Thank you, Council President. We have 2 items on the agenda this evening. The first is a local agency professional service agreement with Cooper Zeitz Engineers for Meeker Street, Washington Avenue to Interurban Trail. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. Appreciate it. Well, my name is Eric Connor. I'm construction manager in Kent's Public Works Engineering Department. Our next Meeker Street project has been awarded and will soon be proceeding to the construction phase. This project will provide Meet Me on Meeker standard multi-use promenade on Meeker Street from Washington Avenue to the Interurban Trail. In addition to a decorative concrete flatwork and infrastructure improvements, the project will feature a roundabout at the intersection of Lincoln Avenue and a raised intersection at 7th Avenue. Funding is largely provided by a federal grant that was awarded to the city as a result of efforts by our engineering staff and Public Works. While it's very helpful and appreciated, federal funding comes with stringent contract management and administration requirements that often result in federal project management review audits. Because of these stringent requirements and audit risk, we find it valuable to contract with consultants that specialize in providing this service on construction projects that are using federal funds. This allows city staff to manage multiple state and locally funded projects. Following WSDOT local agency guidelines for contracting professional consultants, Cooper Zeitz DBA CANA was selected as the firm that represented the highest level of qualifications for the city of Kent on this project. They are a civil engineering firm that has vast experience in the region, providing construction management on local municipalities on federally funded projects. As a result, I am requesting that the city authorize the mayor to execute a consultant agreement with CANA to provide construction management, contract administration, field inspection, and quality control for this Meeker Street project. Thank you for the opportunity to present about this project and request the committee's authorization for a consultant agreement with CANA. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions from anyone? I know we've had quite a few things, consultant agreements, because of the type of project they are come before us recently. So appreciate you being here. I move to authorize the mayor to sign the local agency professional services negotiated hourly rate consultant agreement with Cooper Zietz Engineers Incorporated, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Public Works Director and City Attorney.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. And lastly, we have a change order with R.W. Scott Construction Company for the 2025 water main replacement project. And welcome, Josh.
Good afternoon, council. Josh Harris. I'm capital project manager for our construction engineering group. This is for our 2025 water main improvement projects funded through our city water funds. The 2025 water main improvement project in Kent focused on 3 areas: West Valley Highway North from South 266th Street, right at the DOT driveway, north about 500 feet, Southeast 272nd up in Derbyshire between 116th Place Southeast and 120th Avenue, and East Smith Street from Railroad Avenue to State Avenue North. It replaced about 1,800 lineal feet of 12-inch and 8-inch water main across all 3 of these sites. All the work progressed well at 272nd and West Valley, but issues came up when trenching began at the Smith Street and Central Avenue site. While digging the water main trench on Smith Street, the contractor noticed a strong petroleum smell in the soil. They were instructed to stockpile the material on a plastic barrier off-site, have an environmental testing agency analyze the soil. The test revealed that the soil had high levels of petroleum products. To protect the city's water system, we instructed the contractor to cut out the bells of the water pipe that were already installed and replace them with nitrile gaskets and sleeves. The nitrile gaskets are specifically made to keep any petroleum soil contaminated material out of our water system. Once they installed those sleeves, they continued digging, and that change order resulted in change order 2 at about $75,845. The contractor was able to excavate about 2,020 tons of contaminated soil from the city right-of-way and was disposed of at a certified disposal site. The disposal resulted in change order 3 at a cost of $230,591. Additionally, change order 4 in the amount of $98,646.56 was incurred for contractor reimbursement for labor and equipment needed to haul the contamination material off-site. I'm asking the committee to change order 4 in the amount of $98,646.56, which includes sales tax. This change order will reimburse the contractor for their labor and equipment used to clean up and remove the contaminated soil found in the city right-of-way and dispose of the soil appropriately.
All right, any questions?
Where would they say? What's the address, Tony?
Which one?
The address?
Where the contamination was?
Yeah.
It was right at the intersection of Smith Street and Central Avenue, right between like Jack in the Box and El Ricancito.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm not sure, Josh, if you can answer that, or maybe someone else can, but were there any impacts to our water supply?
There was nothing to our water supply. We caught it and we plugged all the bells, and that's why we decided to change out the original styrene gaskets that come with our water pipe to the nitrile gaskets, because they're specifically made to not allow any materials to penetrate.
Thank you.
Yes, Josh, this might sound like a dumb question, but did you guys ever figure out what was the cause of the petroleum in the soil?
We don't know for sure what was the cause. We're looking into it right now. We know there was a spill, I think 20-something years ago. That was a little ways down the road, and we're having environmental look in and see if anything from that was causing this, and if it was, if there's any way to get reimbursed from anything.
Okay, and we're not certain if the area that we're talking about, that just saturation probably spans out further than the area that we're talking about, you think?
Most likely it's in the groundwater, and it just expanded throughout the ground that way.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any additional questions?
Go ahead.
You just kind of answered my question. It was just if there's any opportunity for cost recovery, but I think you just answered that.
Yeah, if we're able to identify who it was and can notify Department of Ecology to group anything, we would like to do that.
And then are we going to be doing, I don't know if we already do, but are we going to be doing like more soil testing pre-construction?
I would assume if we have projects in the area again, yes, we would be testing before we go out there.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? All right. I move to authorize the mayor to sign change order number 4 to the Public Works Agreement with RW Scott Construction Company Incorporated, subject to the final terms and conditions acceptable to the Public Works Director and City Attorney.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. And back to you, Council President.
Thank you, council member. With that, we are at the end of our meeting. We are adjourned until 5:15 for council workshop. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Welcome to Kansas City Council Workshop for Tuesday, February 17, 2026. We have one item on our agenda. It's 2025 Transportation Grant Summaries and 2026 Grant Opportunities, and we have David Payne. Welcome.
Good evening, Council President, Council members. David Payne, the city's transportation planner. Here, as we typically do in January, this time a little bit tardier in February, to present on the transportation, really the transportation funding, the grants, and the transportation improvement program. The cycle we update each year. It's a two-part presentation. The first part of the presentation, we go over a recap of the 2025 grant awards. And then with the second half, we kick off the transportation improvement program by talking about the schedule, the performance measures, and the potential grant nominations so that we can hopefully keep the cycle going. So the first part of the presentation, talking about the 2025 grants, I'll cover what we did, how we did, and what's next. So the three main sources of grant funding that the city pursues each year come from these three organizations: the Puget Sound Regional Council, Washington State Department of Transportation, and the Transportation Improvement Board. So a lot of what we do, what our team does, our teams do, is to try to understand, anticipate, and then compete for the competitive grants that are offered by these three agencies. So in the last year, we received grant awards from all three, and this map illustrates the 7 awards or so distributed across the city. It was a good year for grant pursuits, and that's in part because of the goals-based transportation plan, the comprehensive plan that the city has, and the partnerships that the city nurtures and continues each year. So I'll go over each of the 7 projects in turn, but in general, they represent both preservation projects and new infrastructure. So the first category from Puget Sound Regional Council, there are 2 projects. The first is the South 212th Street Preservation Project. This is a project that we had previously been awarded funds for, but in one of those interesting partnership roles, because we were in a position with the prepared project to accept additional federal funds because other agencies weren't maybe necessarily able to deliver theirs, we were in a position to help the region out by accepting some of their funds. So again, credit to our team for being ready and the partnerships with those other agencies that we have at the regional level. And then the second is the Meet Me on Meeker Interurban to 6th Avenue South. So this is the last segment, the final segment to be funded of the original vision for the Meet Me on Meeker project. So now the entire original vision is fully funded and on its way to delivery. The second category, the Washington State Department of Transportation. In the summer, we brought these to council for acceptance. The first is the interurban trail improvements. That's crossing improvements of arterials along the interurban trail, and that was provided through a grant from the Washington legislature. The second project, the James Street Preservation, is the largest competitive grant award in recent memory. So that's between Washington Avenue and Central Avenue. It'll help reconstitute the roadway and restripe and add some needed improvements to some of the signal crossings. And then the third is the 64th Avenue South and South to 63rd Street intersection right next to Neely O'Brien. This was a Safe Routes, Neely O'Brien Elementary School. This was a Safe Routes to School pursuit 2 years ago. And we were happy to accept those funds, and all 3 projects are now under design. And then the last category, the last agency awards were from the Transportation Improvement Board. These were presented in January. So the first is for a long-pursued project on the East Hill for Southeast 248th and 116th Avenue Southeast roundabout. It'll include sidewalks, sidewalk connections, connecting sidewalks, east-west and to the south, to the networks of sidewalks that exist, and add a shared use path along Southeast 248th Street east to west. The intersection improvements also serve Daniel Elementary and Martin Sartoon Elementary schools. So all total, the project, the grants from 2025 total $17.9 million. Sorry, the confetti animation didn't come along. So the next, so you may ask what the next steps are. Well, the next steps are that we continue our work. We update the TIP to include, we update the Transportation Improvement Program to annotate where we've accepted additional grants, where those resources are, and we implement the projects. This slide also illustrates the next step of starting the process again, and the relationship between the Transportation Master Plan, or the comp plan, the Transportation Improvement Program, and the grant applications that we pursue. It's a constant function for us to keep all three in alignment. We are required by the state to update the Transportation Improvement Program each year. And having all three in alignment with the region allows for the funds to flow and for us to be ready to compete again in the upcoming year. So with that, I'll switch gears to start talking about the next update for the Transportation Improvement Program, where we're going. And the Transportation Improvement Program itself is, again, required to be updated by state law so that we can be in constant alignment. But it also serves as a sort of work program to help translate between the 20-year long-range plan and more of a 6-year plan horizon. So it helps speak to some of the grant pursuits that we'll go after, as well as the projects that are underway. The cycle looks like this. So here we are in January, February, sort of the blending between the two. Each year we follow the same cycle, which is we first review the current TIP, and we conduct briefings and go through project nominations with some of our core stakeholders to add additional or nominate additional projects to be added into the TIP. We get everybody's feedback. And then in February, we start drafting the outreach material that we'll be using to then go out to the public and talk about these projects potentially to be added to the TIP. In March, we go out and do that outreach, including in person and virtual, board presentations. I'll be back in March to give an update on those specific projects. We take the feedback on that, we wrap it into the draft in April, including a draft document with another presentation to Committee of the Whole, with hopefully an adoption and public hearing in May on the TIP updates. The Transportation Improvement Program also gives us the opportunity to pause and ask ourselves how we're doing. So we have a dashboard of performance metrics that we show each year and we publish in the document. So this is the time where we pause and ask how we're doing, and we take a look at some of the metrics, and at a glance, this year it's a bit of a mixed bag. The top roll-up performance metric, it's kind of small print, but percent of commute trips taken other than by single occupant vehicle. That's a data point that we get from the American Community Survey. It's data that's provided to all communities, and it consists of multiple modes, really all of the modes rolled into one. So that's kind of a big number that you can kind of get a sense of how the efficiency of the system is going without looking at any particular facility. And you can see that the percentage went down a little in year to year. It's not necessarily anything to be concerned about. Again, things fluctuate, but it is something that we have had a positive stream over the last 3 years, so we want to keep an eye on it. And then the next couple of metrics are rolled into that, and the one that might be worth pointing out is the percent of workers that work from home. That percentage dropped from 17% to 11%. Again, any particular year maybe a little bit of noise in the trends, but what you're seeing there is the return to office mandates, some of the ending of the pandemic work from home arrangements for folks who could work from home. And so you see that metric basically in that line and in the top line. So we do want to call those out. Then the bottom four speak to the funding situation, the funding metrics, not situation, pardon me. And similar to prior years, the city is doing very well for the first three, which are related to grants. We continue to really exceed the grants pursued and awarded to the city. And the bottom metric has to do with the TIF calculation, TIF collected annually. And in the past year, we did not meet the city's goal of $3.2 million collected through TIF, but that was well more than made up for in the amount of grants that were collected. Those four altogether, again, point back to the comp plan, to the TMP. The city opts to have a fiscally constrained long-range transportation plan so that we can keep tabs on are we planning for what we can afford and are we affording for what we can plan. So with that, we'll switch gears to talking about the upcoming grant applications that we see for this year. So we have a blank slate, but I want to again call out the QR code in the upper right-hand corner. If folks access that link currently, either through the backup material or through the QR code, it'll take them to last year's Transportation Improvement Program story map, which has not been, it's in the process of being updated, but it's the same link every year so that we recycle it and folks can keep the same outreach material. So in 2 weeks, at the beginning of March, I'll come back and give a presentation on the projects to be added, and at that point, you'll see new material on that link. So it's the same material, or the same link, new material. So the two categories, the two agencies that we anticipate applying for grants in the first half of this year are for PSRC and the Washington State Department of Transportation. So I'll go over each of those in turn. And then typically we come back in the summertime to go over our TIB pursuits. So the first is the PSRC Transportation Alternatives Program. And so we're thinking about two potential pursuits this year. The first is for a Willis Street sidewalk, and that's along SR 516, roughly between Washington and the Naden property. So that would close a sidewalk gap, which is in the transportation master plans and the comp plan, and it's one of the sections of roadway that's a little bit more challenging to coordinate all the stakeholders to get an improvement made. The second one has to do with the 4th Avenue North at Harrison Street Enhanced Crossing. So that's one of the remaining crossings of Central Avenue that doesn't have a signalized crossing control yet. So that's currently proposed to be a rapid rectangular flashing beacon with median island. Then the second category is, WashDOT's pair of grants for this even year. Is the Safe Routes to School grant program and the Bike Ped program. So the first project you see on West Hill is the Reith Road Shared Use Path. So last month we brought a section of Reith Road for Shared Use Path as an award to council. This would close the gap between that section and the 253rd Street intersection where the two roundabouts recently completed construction. So this would be our second approach, or our second attempt at pursuing a grant for WashDOT for that particular section. So we feel it's pretty competitive, and being able to say that we're closing a gap is also a good competitive aspect. So that's going to be a pursuit this year. And then the second one is this Starburst on the right. This is adding improvements to elementary school walk routes by adding extruded curbing along the walk routes to provide just a little bit more visual buffer and vertical separation for the pedestrian walkable areas next to the roadway. Again, we'll come back in the summertime, right before the Transportation Improvement Board pursuits, to talk a little bit more about those. And in the meantime, just like the screen shows, we continue to think and look at the projects that are in the Transportation Master Plan and the Comprehensive Plan, in the city's safety plans, and the feedback that we get from stakeholders each year through whichever venue that we may hear it. We'll be giving presentations on the tip to the Land Use Planning Board, Kent Bicycle Advisory Board, materials posted at the Kent Commons and also online. And again, the types of projects that we tend to pursue include the criteria that you see on the screen, the goals-based priorities that are in the comprehensive plan and the TMP. These are also the metrics or the goals that are supported through the different competitive grant programs. So things like safety, equity, increasing connections, active transportation, infrastructure preservation, resilience, anything that we can work on within existing rights of way, and of course, nurturing and furthering partnerships. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, David. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Council President. David, thank you for this presentation. I have a question and then a comment. Can you remind me what TIF is?
Transportation impact fee. So this is when developments come into the city. When the Transportation Master Plan was adopted, the city adopted a transportation impact fee. Many cities in Washington State take advantage of this, and there's a ratio that, based on the trips that a development will create, they pay a fee to the city that can then be used on improvements that are adopted in the Transportation Master Plan.
Okay, great, thank you. And then you just kind of went by this, but last year, $17.9 million in grants. Awesome. Great job, great work, team. Yeah, that's impressive. That's $17.9 million that we just got for free and didn't have to spend of our own money. So good work being prepared. Good job.
Thank you.
I think we're going to throw candies at David for this. Thank you, Councilmember Michaud. Any other questions or comments? I do have a questions about, can you go back to the last slide, please? Does that, this one right here, does that cover all of the elementary schools?
Not all of the elementary schools. We went through an analysis of where there are where there's space in the existing roadway, wide shoulders, routes existing walk routes to schools, where adding an extruded curb would be relatively easy. And these are it's a lot of schools, 7 or 8. I'm blanking off the top of my head, but these are the ones that we've identified so far.
Okay, and we're just basically just curbing and not like sidewalks or pedestrian lights like we have other places, or.
Lighting is not currently part of this project, but there may be a design consideration that comes up based on the funding once it's awarded, where it could be a curb plus backfilling in behind the curb, depending on what the drainage situation is there. Really, we're going to try to take a swing for the funds, and then based on the funds that we can get, we'll may need to make some design decisions there. I hope that's a fair characterization of the project.
Thank you, David. And like Councilmember Michaud said, impressive amount of grants that come from your department. So congratulations. Thank you for bringing those tax dollars back to us.
Thank you.
And all the work we have done over years. It's been pretty impressive and amazing. So congratulations to your team, Chad. Any other questions or comments? It's like a short and sweet presentation. For these grants, you will find out just a spring or summer?
So the WashDOT grants will typically take until the next legislative session. So they're a little over a year. PSRC will know by the end of the summer.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. No other questions or comments? Looks like you're doing a great job. You can take all these candies.
100%.
All right. Thank you, David. With that, we are adjourned until 7 o'clock for council meeting.